is Mario married to Peach? Therefore, is he king? And like, why isn't she queen? Like, why is she ruling? Ruling over the kingdom? Like,
yeah.
Then that whole like stuff comes
what
into
are,
it. And then
what are
like,
what are the geopolitics in the Mario games?
Yeah, in the Mario universe.
Right. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I am Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill, and I am joined as ever by the indie developer Mr. Christopher Jarvis.
Hello.
And this week, Chris is a bit more of an indie developer because he's been working hard. He's been doing the hustle, and stuff is happening. Chris, tell us all about it. What's going on?
Yeah, so I've got my announcement trailer, which is out. I've posted it on Twitter, which got a great reception from some cool people. So thank you very much for the love that's been shown. There's been some people that have been sort of friendly about the game in the past, and they've said some really nice things on Twitter. So that's been great. I've got the trailer out on YouTube. I've set up a Patreon page if anyone is interested in supporting the little indie game Focus Find. Vin and his lovely wife Rachel have supported, so they're patrons. So if you want to join them too, then yeah, check it out.
Join us.
Exclusive content.
Join us. Yeah.
Doing some videos on there. And yeah, it's been going as well as can be expected. My expectations are super low. I was telling Vin earlier. So they've already exceeded the expectations. So it's just like no one's going to say anything. So yeah, it's been really busy. I did like a 12-hour day on the Friday. So then I just chilled out on then I just did a half day on Saturday.
Cool.
So yeah, it's been great. It's been really fun. It's like a milestone. So I'm proud and pleased. I can't wait to just get back to actually making a video game. Yeah. Which is kind of a weird thing. So I'm trying to sell it at this stage, and that's taking away from the actual, production side of things. So it's a weird thing, but it's a learning curve. It's all new, and it's just really exciting, and I'm liking it, and I would love it to be my full-time job. I'm like, the more I work on it, the more I'm learning these new skills and learning about Steam and all this sort of things, and marketing and setting up the Patreon page. I'm like, damn, I could do this full time.
Yeah.
Like learning new stuff and implementing them and having creative input. Yeah, it's been really good.
No, that's cool, man. Like when I saw it all start like rolling out last week, I was really happy for you because it's like, yeah, it's finally becoming real, pretty much, right? It's not just like this little side thing that you are making by yourself as a hobby anymore. It's sort of like it's shifting a little bit, so it's exciting.
Yeah, it feels a little bit more real now. And it feels a little bit more validated that I'm at this stage where I'm talking about it and people aren't going, you do realize this is terrible, right? no one's said that yet. So everyone's just been kind so far. So it feels like, I'm like cautiously optimistic about the future for it. But yeah, so the next stage will be to get some more people playing it and see what they think. But I need it to get into a stage where they can play a few levels, start to finish, without anything breaking, and getting that.
Yeah, it's games are weird because like especially the indie side anyway, like things on Twitter and stuff like that, whenever you post anything up, like people are super supportive in general, like regardless of how many likes and retweets and all that sort of stuff you get, like the actual content, like the bulk of the people that are actually just commenting and liking this sort of stuff, even if it's like super low or super high, like it's extremely positive most of the time. And it's like that, it sort of gives you a false sense of security almost, because you're kind of sat there like, oh yeah, this is going to be great, and it's like, and you're just going through and more people are enjoying it and more people like it and more people go on board. But the difference between like that stage and releasing and the reviews are just like vastly different sort of thing, and people are a lot more critical of stuff like once they put money into it, which it makes sense like completely, but it's just as long as you're prepared for that side of it, then then you're good.
Well, I was researching I was doing marketing, so I was looking at people who I think would want to review the game, which is really hard for my game. It's like the curse of making a unique game that you can't really think of any like competitors or anything that's very like similar. The things that I think are similar are from like 8 years ago, so I check out the people who did a really good review on it.
Right.
And they're like doing something else. They're like not even in media anymore. It's like, oh, okay, or they've changed jobs, or they did really well and then they've been brought out by IGN or Polygon or something, which is interesting. But yeah, it's got its own challenges trying to figure out who the press is. What was my point? Oh yeah, the point was, it's interesting that the articles that I liked about the games that are similar is that they were critical for the right things. And I'm totally fine with people being critical. It's not the best game in the world. It's never going to be. It's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be just like interesting little mechanic, interesting little story, interesting little experience. First game could do better. That's all I'm hoping for. And so if I can get a tiny slice of that, then I'll be happy. I'm not wanting it to get rave reviews or anything like that. I just but the people that do the articles that I'm choosing to like go, hey, check out the game, they were critical in a really nice way where they're like, this has this effect. If they did this, it might have this effect.
Yeah.
Rather than just like, oh, this is terrible, this is garbage, what were they thinking?
Right,
sort of
constructive feedback sort of thing.
Yeah.
People are actually, they aren't just trashing it sort of thing. They're saying, okay, it's good, but it would be great if it was this sort of thing, which... Yeah, I do appreciate those sort of things, like most of the time, but you do get those people that just don't know what they're talking about sometimes, and like, oh yeah, you should just throw in like experience and do this, like it should be like an RPG or something. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? So, yeah, but for the most part, it never comes from a bad place, I guess. Like that's the important thing. Like they're always just trying to help the creators like get to a better product because they want to play a better product and they want you to be able to create a better product and stuff. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And all the criticism is all useful, some more so than others.
Yeah.
My friend was like, she was playing it, and she's not really like a gamer, which is what, again, that's kind of like my target audience. People that aren't really into gamers but would like an interesting artistic experience. And she's an art teacher.
Oh,
and she was like, it's great. I want to play it on my phone when my daughter's like asleep, when I get a second. Like, that would be great. And so I was like, that's great feedback.
Yeah, that's fascinating, right? And you could, like, that's a very easily ported game as well, like in terms of controls, anyway, because the majority of the problems that you have when you're porting a mobile game or a game to mobile is the control setup. And the way that yours works is just a directional, that's it pretty much, right? It's just on one sort of joystick. Like you never actually put in any inputs that much. So like you could literally just set that up on a screen. Yeah. And so like if it's the top left screen, then it moves left. If it's top right, then it moves right, sort of thing. And that's it. Done. Fixed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're in a good spot for that. It's just a matter of you could port it graphically. You might have to downgrade some stuff there, but past that, yeah, it's definitely doable. I mean, put it in as a Patreon goal. Mobile version.
Yeah, that could be a Patreon goal. Yeah. If I get X amount, I've got to figure out how much the whole game's going to cost first. That's the next one.
Yeah, that's always tough.
Because my first goal is like
really
for
subjective.
me to leave my job for a year. And then the next one is how long is the game going to take to make? But it's tricky because when you're only working on it evenings and weekends, it's tough to figure out how long stuff takes.
Yeah.
And especially because it's the first time I've ever done an indie game like this from start to finish. Again, it's tricky. Like, how long is the music going to take? I don't know. How long did it take me to do the first 2 tracks? I don't know.
Yeah. And you get faster at that stuff as well. That's another problem. Yeah. So like, one level took me this long, but the second level took me half that time, and then the third level took me half that time of that, and it just gets faster and faster because you get more experience in making your own game. So like you sort of speed up as you go. So yeah, that's an impossible question to sort of answer, I guess. But no, it's either way, man. It's good that you're sort of progressing on. It's cool to see it like step up to the next level, I guess, like in terms of production and stuff. So fingers crossed for you. If you are listening to this and you're interested in Focus Find, like please go check out Chris's YouTube channel, his Twitter page at Acrylic Pixel. You can go and find all this stuff there. Game looks very cool. Like support it on Patreon, all sort of good stuff, and help the industry.
Help make a game.
Right.
Yeah. Help the industry.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly.
Help guy out.
And be on the lookout for mine in about 6 months or something. So yeah. Anyway, I'll get to. Like this week, I've been making a list of like stuff. Like, all right, I need to start like planning this ahead. And so like the first thing on my list is probably set up a Steam wish list. I think you've convinced me at this point that it's probably a good idea to just get that done early. So I might sort of jump on that over the next couple of weeks, but Patreon and all that sort of stuff is way further down the line.
I agree. Like, and especially like we've had a conversation about, we read that article about, there's literally no downside to getting your Steam page up and getting and trying to do a wish list. Because even worst case scenario, your game tanks or like you've decided you're not going to do that game anymore, you can still use that money you've spent on another project. You just change the name of the project and change the screenshots and change this and that and the other. It's not a big deal. And or just organically, without me promoting my Steam page, because I was holding off before I was starting to announce it, it organically grew 8 8 wish lists just from people just stumbling across it. So like typing in the keywords, like 2D puzzle-ish platformer. So it's grown. Yeah, it's grown just without me publicizing it, which I never even considered. I didn't in a million years think I'd get any wish list. So to get 8 within a couple of days by itself was really great. And yeah, and I'm sure your game with your screenshots and stuff, as soon as you send a tweet out, because you've got those, couple of thousand people that are interested in it now. So
yeah,
if a third of those wish list it,
I'm sorted.
It's
mostly honestly
2/3 of the way up. You're probably 2/3 of the way up most games that have got zero presence after a year of production.
Yeah, it's like the main reason why I probably want to do it though is because it's not a selfish reason, but it's kind of like for business reasons. Is that if I have a bunch of people wishlist it before I actually start pitching it to publishers, because that's my ultimate goal, is to like get it published by someone like Devolver Digital or something like along that echelon of people. Get it onto Game Pass day one or something, and then just have done with it, get a payout, and like, all right, I've got enough money to work on my second game, which is like the bigger thing, right? That's the ultimate goal. So like if I've got a bunch of wish lists, and I'll be able to use that as a bargaining chip basically, and say, look, this is how popular the game is going to be, and I haven't even done an announcement trailer or anything yet. This is what I'm sort of aiming for. That sounds egotistical, but it's not. It's very much like it's going to set my own expectations as well. So if like nobody wishlists it, then I know how to adjust from it as well. So I'm going to be using it very much as that sort of tool more than anything. But that's
well, they look at metrics, don't they? It's a metric. It's the most important metric, and so why not start trying to grow that most important metric? Publishers look at all metrics, so they look at all the data you've got available. So your Twitter feed and the Twitter buzz will be one of them. Like how many people you've got on wishlist will be another one. If you then set up a Patreon page, how many people are supporting it is another one. Because they're like, even if 10 people are doing it, they're like, that's better than someone without a Patreon page, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it all helps.
Yeah, it's all a part of the business. So it's something I have to sort of get on board with at some point. But it's like you said, man. You have to. At the end of the day, it takes time away from you making the game, which is annoying because that's all I want to do. I just want to work on the game. But then we have to start thinking about all this business side of it because we have to sell the game and all that sort of stuff. It's just it's a very different beast. And starting to think about that is just it's a very bizarre like sort of journey that you have to go on, but everyone has to do it sort of thing if you want to do this full time. And we're definitely on the way to that. So, but yeah, I'm super excited for yours. I'm glad that it's become a little bit more real, especially for you. So yeah, it's exciting. Should be cool.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, and if you're watching this in the future, maybe both our games are out. So yeah,
sure, yeah, go check out our awesome games. Like they both got 10 out of 10s. They're amazing. I'm telling you, like it's just the best, and they're never going to be on sale. So you just go and buy them full price if you want. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But that will be a funny clip to sort of look back on one day.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, speaking of like video games in general, I guess like I'm playing video games and buying them. We should talk about the games industry because that's normally what our podcast is about.
Yeah, that should be why you're here. Yes.
Yeah, it should be. I hope. Christ.
What are we talking about today? Yeah.
We've got a few things to sort of get through. What do you want to sort of tackle first, Chris?
We could do the boring one, the Microsoft closing on $70 billion.
The boring one. You are selling this podcast, so like I appreciate it.
To buy Activision Blizzard. The reason why it's boring is because there's some people that are like, it's such a big deal. Maybe it won't go through. Like, the feds are going to have to look closely about anti-monopoly and what was the other term that they used? Not anti-bribery, but yeah, like monopoly. It's
Yeah, I just don't really understand why. Like, I understand the attention it's getting. I fully understand that. Like, it's a huge deal. Like, it's a lot of money involved.
Yeah.
It's a big shift for the industry, and all of that. So I get why the attention's sort of happening.
Change. But talk about that. Talk about how big it is. Talk about the impact it's going to have on people.
Exactly.
Talk about like what's actually going to be happening, not lies and like people that are uninformed about how these big business deals happen. And it's just scaremongering. I think it's just preying on people's insecurities and lack of knowledge about these sort of things.
I agree, and it's very much about like the thing that sort of exposes that more than everything is the like, oh no, the trade commission are looking at the Activision and Microsoft the Activision and Microsoft deal. It must be in trouble, sort of thing. When the actual headline should be, like everyone that's over $1 million in the US gets looked at by the trading board, like every single one of them. Like that's sort of part of the course. And this is very, very normal.
Expected box ticking exercises. Ticks box accordingly.
Right.
No surprises so far. Yeah. That's probably what the headline should be, which is dead boring.
There are some points of genuine like news where like we've now got members of the U.S. Senate and Congress like mentioning this case in particular, like, and that is sort of like, all right, that's newsworthy because if they're looking at this and that, because at the end of the day, like if the Senate and Congress and the House and all that sort of stuff in the US, like if they don't like consolidation, but they've got no real reason to block it, then that, you can't just block it for the sake of blocking it. You just can't. Like there's legal standing for them to be able to buy this company out. And there's like, I've really not seen an argument from anyone that like strongly suggests that it will be blocked. Honestly, I just haven't seen anything because people are saying, oh, it's a monopoly. It's not. The games industry is massive. Call of Duty is big, don't get me wrong, but it's not even a tenth of the games industry. So it's kind of like, it's not actually as big as people sort of assume. It's big to us culturally and a part of the games industry, absolutely. But like in terms of pure money, which is what the trading board's looking at, it's not a monopoly. Not even close.
No. People can launch their video game on Steam. People can go to Sony. They can go to Nintendo. This is just like, it's like what you said. It's just consolidation, and it happens
in all
industries.
It's a lot
of money. It's a lot to talk about. It's going to affect the games that come out for sure, and what platforms people can play things on. But that already happens with Nintendo. Like Nintendo don't want like Mario on, PlayStation or Sony. It's kind of similar sort of stuff here, but.
And the whole argument has actually been dampened more than anything. And like the whole idea that this would be blocked is even less so now that the PlayStation Plus revamp has been announced, because now PlayStation are coming out the gate, like rebranding and really pushing their streaming service. So that's the competition to Game Pass now. So they've actually bolstered the idea that, that Activision being bought out and only being on their platform for streaming services, that's sort of been weakened now. So there's actually even more reason that it's going to go through now. And like we keep seeing these fear-mongering sort of articles and stuff, and who knows, maybe it will get blocked for whatever reason. But like right now on the news that's coming out, on what basis is like are sort of being expressed right now, it's not. Yeah. Like there's no real news here. Like this is very, very part of the course. It's very normal. So everyone should just take a breath, go and look at any, like if you find lawyers that are covering the games industry in whatever way, like there's a couple on YouTube as well. I think one of them's a Hogue Law. Like you can find him. I think he's based out of Chicago or something. But he's basically a lawyer and he goes into depth on this. And there's a lot of other like places as well. Like if you're not into his content, then go and look elsewhere and find different views, obviously. But I've yet to see a lawyer that covers the games industry properly and actually knows what the games industry is about. Really, give a good reason why this would get blocked. Like they really haven't come up with any. This is like, this will go through. Like it's a lot of money, but it will go through. Yeah. Like there's really no reason for it not to. So
why is there no overlap between lawyers and gamers? Why is that?
Because we're not taken seriously, Chris. Speaking of not taken seriously, the New York Times. I've been talking about video games. So we should dive into this as well. So the New York Times, this cracks me up like more than anything. This.
Did they even put their name on it? Who was it?
Would you put your name on it? All right. No. So for some context, if people don't know what we're talking about, it was trending on Twitter for a few days. If you're not on Twitter, then that's cool. But there was a New York Times article about Elden Ring that was put out, and this thing was just amazing. It was an opinion column, I guess, more than anything. But the title of it is "In Elden Ring, the struggle feels real," and it's a very strange article, and they are basically trying to they've leaned on this idea that the creators of Elden Ring saw the struggles of the pandemic, and people struggled and life was hard. And you are absolutely right, the pandemic is hard. We're still in it, by the way. And all of that sort of stuff. And they were trying to say, Elden Ring is a direct sort of comment to that, and like what that's why Elden Ring was so successful, is because people like that internal struggle and all this sort of stuff, and just a lot of these like crazy concepts. But
and it's difficult to imagine Elden Ring having this sort of cultural cachet in any other era other than pandemic. So it's almost like saying that it's better because of the pandemic.
Yeah, that is a statement. That's for sure. I mean, we can laugh at this all day, and like it's absolutely hilarious. And if you can find like a copy of it, don't go to the New York Times and actually read this. Like if you can find like a copy of it somewhere else and like find it, then
Brian. Yeah, the author was Brian X. Chen of the New York Times.
He must have done.
He's either a genius, and the New York Times were like, right, we need
some cash on the game side.
Yeah, we need something like that's gonna cause a ruckus. It's gonna cause a stir. Who are the biggest fanboys? And then Brian was like, well, at the minute it's Elden Ring, because they're like having their heyday, and they're like, can you take a hot take that's totally not related to why the game is successful and put the reason why the game is successful as that reason? And he was like, yes, totally. And I can bring it into fold in current events because we're coming out of the pandemic. I can totally fold in coming out of the pandemic with the success of Elden Ring, and that will rile up the maximum amount of fanboys that are doing the rounds on Twitter at the moment about why this game is great. And it's great because it's, you know, it's another like they've changed the formula in a great, refreshing, interesting way. They know what they're doing. They've got a proven track record. It's the best Souls game, everyone's saying. Really well written. You've got George R.R. Martin coming along. Those are all the reasons why Elden Ring is great. So let's just not mention those reasons in the article and just blame it on the pandemic.
Right.
It could be genius if that's what they were going for.
Yeah, it's just, you've got, like, he's got to have known. Like, someone that's, like, that in-depth into the games industry, I guess. Like, if you're working for the New York Times, I would hope that they know the industry well enough and all that sort of good stuff. If they did know and they were just looking at this, like, okay, I know how rabid the fans are and stuff, and I know, like, how polarizing this game can be to some people, especially on the difficulty scale. Like, it's just, there's a lot of conversation around the game. And the fact that it's got 97 on Metacritic and all that sort of stuff, you're right. I think, like, it probably is just a genius market move, but there's also that side of it where it could also not be that. Maybe the guy is being genuinely serious and this is what he actually believes, and like his opinions are his opinions and sort of stuff, and this is sort of laid out as an opinion piece, which is fine, I guess. Like it's kind of like a half review of Elden Ring at the same time, which is very bizarre. All of that sort of good stuff. But like, if he is being genuinely serious and he genuinely thinks that the only reason why this game is so successful right now is because of the pandemic and nothing to do with the fact that it might just be a good video game, then that's kind of bananas, and that sort of exposes the real problem with the games industry, what the games industry has when it comes to being taken seriously, and how outlets sort of cover us, like from the bigger outlets anyway. Like when we talk about outlets, like people think, oh, okay, Polygon and IGN and places like this is like, they're the quote unquote big outlets, or Kotaku, right? They're not the big outlets whatsoever. The big outlets is like the Washington Post, the New York Times,
Sunday Times,
the Guardian, things like this. There's a lot of like the actual news outlets. Like I don't really like, we talked about this before, but I don't really consider video games outlets to be journalists, like proper journalism anyway. Like they are to an extent, but they're mostly critics.
We've got more like indie journalists in the games industry. We've got more like there's this new, like it's a trio that I found them on Patreon. People Make Games, and they're like it's like a trio or four people in Brighton. Yeah, and they did some cool exposure stuff to Roblox, like the child labor exposure stories that
journalism.
Yeah, and they're like doing proper journalism, and they're doing it with proper journalistic integrity, like approaching the company, like trying to get interviews with people, like doing interviews with employees, quoting them in the proper way, citing their sources, proper journalistic integrity, and presenting trying to be as unbiased as possible while presenting the facts, like what the news should be. I guess we're kind of like used to that in the UK, like with BBC News. We're spoiled with journalistic integrity.
You are absolutely bang on there, and that's like the majority of my issue with the games journalists in the world anyway, is that opinions are everywhere. Like we can't. It's very, very difficult to just get the facts on a lot of this sort of stuff. Like the Activision Blizzard stuff. Like when all that stuff came out, or like the Ubisoft stuff before that, there was a lot of just people's opinions riddled in these articles, which, like you're allowed to do opinion pieces if they are titled as such. But if you're reporting this as facts, keep your opinions out of it. Like look at like things like BBC. Like you go onto the BBC News website, it's like, and you read an article. It's not like there are some, like you might find like a scrap of an opinion in there, or they might lean a certain way. But like for the most part, it's very much just this happened at this time. This person said this. This is the source. This is where they're from. And it's like the paragraphs are actually like 2 or 3 lines long a lot of the time, because it's just facts. Like they just list stuff out, and you sort of take that away and you're like, okay, that's what's happened. And we don't really have that in the games industry. Like when we get these articles, they come in paragraphs of like massive blocks that are just like, and I think this, and I think that, and I think this, and the reason why I think this is because this person said this, single source. And there's no like, that is a problem. And now the juxtaposition to that is things like the New York Times, which is, they are a proper outlet. They do proper journalism. They have been awarded for research. They've won Pulitzer Prizes and stuff like this. And it's kind of like, okay, you look at that, and then you look at these articles, and it's like, that's how the real outlets see the games industry. We are an afterthought. We're at the bottom of the pecking order, and no one cares. Like, people can just do these throwaway opinion pieces like this that are absolute trash, by the way. Like, nobody believes this. Like this whole idea that that Elden Ring is an allegory for the pandemic. And that is just like absolutely ridiculous. Like it's
because anyone that knows about how games are made would know that it was formulated, years and years ago before the pandemic. So there's no way that it could be at all related. And things are too far in motion when, the pandemic hit to change course to any way to maybe drive that home. It's very difficult to say one way or another without actually being there. But there's no way that it can be an answer to the pandemic.
No, it's just this. But, it just like I feel like I'm just banging my head against the wall. Like as the years go by, it's like we're growing, we're getting bigger. The industry is huge. Like we're getting mentioned by, like senators in Congress because of like consolidation things about our companies.
How big the industry is, and
all of this stuff. And it's like, okay, more money's coming in. More people are making a career out of this. More people are playing games than ever before. All this sort of stuff, like. All good, like normal growth stuff. But at the same time, the cultural sort of shell over the top of that is just like, I'm just screaming, God damn it. Can we just be taken seriously for 5 minutes? Like on the outside, like from the general public's perspective, not the hardcore gamers. Like we understand, like people that are listening to this podcast will fully understand. Like they are a part of that group of people that understand how important video games is. But to the outside person of our industry that's looking in is like, the basement dweller boys are like making video games that are edgy to the pandemic. Like that mindset it's old and it needs to go away. And we're just like, and it's frustrating. Like the people that should be taking this seriously, like these writers at the New York Times, they should be using this platform to sort of express like how normal and cool video games are, but they don't. They're still doing these stupid edgy articles, and it's kind of like, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
And to the outside Joe as well, in my opinion, the New York Times article, they had so many angles that they could have gone for, which is like educational to non-gamers and also like endearing to gamers. So like the fact George R.R. Martin, a big, huge name, the television shows made him like household name, the books made him a household name. Hey, he's helped writing on the video game. That's interesting, isn't it? Like someone that writes books and helps write for TV shows is now writing for video game. How is that? Explore that. Let's do a deep dive into that. What made him want to do that? What impacts it's having on gamers? That's just one thread. Another thread of, hey, it's a really, really hard game. This game is making hardcore gamers like cry and but they're spending hundreds of hours on it. And so what makes a video game fun? Like, why are these hardcore gamers spending all this time on a game that's really, really difficult? Why doesn't it have a difficulty setting? What impact is going to have on people coming out from outside games that might want to get involved in this sort of game? Like, is this the sort of game to like introduce you to games? So many different angles to go from. And this game is this game series has grown in popularity over the last few years. Like, And now with the gaming industry, the biggest boom since the pandemic, people have played a lot of games because of the pandemic. That's fine, you can include that. But why is a difficult game like renowned now, and why is it having its moment in the sun? So yeah, to me, they just missed a trick, and they could have made a lot more people a lot more interested and a lot more happy. The only thing that seems to have happened is you know, get a lot of Twitter press.
Yeah, I mean,
Discord.
And it's like you said, like if that was the goal, that's genius, right? But it's just like there's the other side of it where like if you read the articles, a lot of ignorance in there as well. It's just unfortunate, like that this is on the New York Times. Like if this was on Kotaku, it would have been laughed at and no one would have looked at it. But there's there's like if this is in the actual newspaper and like millions of people are reading this, it's sort of like, oh, man, it's like because the thing, it's like the Martin thing, right? Like the fact that J.R. Martin, household name as you said, worked on this thing. Imagine if Steven Spielberg read that article, and it was about the fact that Martin worked on this sort of thing, and Spielberg was like, you know what, it'd be really cool if I worked on a video game as well. Like if Martin's getting in on this, like maybe I should get in on this. And then we get like other people, right, and just other people, and it just helps the industry grow. I'm not saying we should like get inundated by like a bunch of movie people because it's a very different industry and all that sort of stuff. But it's about like that content mill of like keeping people coming and going and people coming in, like fresh ideas coming into the industry, and maybe like a movie director working on a game. Spielberg has worked on a game before, by the way, like not show my ignorance too much about that, but like people like Spielberg, I should say. If Christopher Nolan or something wanted to make a video game and he had an idea for a video game, like what would that look like? You know, like I would like to see those ideas, like in addition to the industry that we sort of saw. But it's kind of like when we've got these sort of articles though, where like the guy literally starts out saying Elden Ring is essentially a sequel from Software's Dark Souls series. It's kind of like, it's not a sequel. And like, there's all this sort of like, it's just really frustrating. Like, I'm just dying for us to be taken seriously. And this just like, I understand the angle that they were probably going at, which was like, this will rile people up. We'll get some clicks. We'll get some views. People might buy our newspaper tomorrow. And he'll get a nice bonus because it's all done on traffic. Like it doesn't really matter you know, how good the article is when it's an opinion piece, because you can say anything in opinion pieces. But it's sort of, man, there's such an opportunity here to speak about this game, especially about a game that's got 97 on Metacritic and people are talking about. A lot of people are enjoying. It's very polarizing. Like there was so many other interesting conversations to be had. Yeah. And this is the angle they went for, which was this, you know, the game is an allegory of the pandemic, even though the game was like started in production before the pandemic, and all the Souls games are in this format as well. It's kind of like, okay, was the original Demon Souls from 2013 or whenever that game came out, like 2011, I think that came out. Is that an allegory for like the pandemic? No, because that was 10 years before the pandemic hit and stuff. It's sort of, it's very strange, very, very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is it the most popular, is it hitting the most three in terms of it's the hardest, that's the most well received, that's sold the most? Like, it's ticking all those boxes. It's like three massive things, selling really well.
Yeah.
It's the most popular game of the series. So many people have come out and said, it's my favorite one of the Souls games.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times.
And it's really, really like 97 on Metacritic. Can't deny it. So huge stories right there, because that's how often does that happen? Never.
Yeah, the thing, like I hate the comparisons that people make with like in terms of gameplay with Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring, because they are vastly, like they are not similar at all. Like anyone that says anything like that, they're stupid. But in terms of like all them things that you just ticked off, in terms of like the cultural impact and like how good the game is, and it's not a sequel, but it's like a spiritual successor is the better way to say. All them sort of things coalescing together to make this sort of like this conversation more than anything. It's very similar to Breath of the Wild in that respect, but outside of that, like they're not similar whatsoever. I just want to be very clear about that.
I get that. Yeah. There hasn't been anything that sort of ticked those three boxes since
Breath of the Wild, I guess.
Fair enough.
Because there's a lot of other games come along, like Horizon, right? When that came out, but that was a fresh thing. It was a new thing. And it's like, this is just a great game. But like having, like when you reimagine a game, I think it gets a lot more attention. I think Elden Ring is a reimagining of the Souls format more than anything. And the fact that it's open world, the fact it changes a lot of things in game, which we'll discuss later when I like probably talk about what we've been playing, because I've absolutely been playing it. But there's a lot of things that change in that game which have been reimagined for the better, in my opinion, like much better. So yeah, it's just annoying, man. So many good conversations could have been had around this game, and this is the one that they went for. It feels like a cheap shot, and it's the most disappointing thing for me is the fact that it's from the New York Times, not the content of the thing. Like, I don't care. It's another stupid article from people that don't know what the hell they're talking about. But the fact that it's from the New York Times, that's the part that stings more than anything.
Yeah, I agree. We could talk about Elden Ring a bit more after the other stuff, which is the Nvidia leak game list. We can talk about again.
Yeah. So, God, when did this leak even happen? It was a long time ago. It was like
ages ago.
It's a good year and a half ago or something. I'm guessing. No, it wasn't a year and a half. It was about 7 to 12 months ago, I guess. Like, I don't know the exact window. I'd have to go and look it up. But basically, there was a leak from GeForce Now, and if people don't know what GeForce Now is, it's basically a streaming service where you can play any game from your sort of Steam library. You can play it over the cloud. All you have to do is log in on GeForce Now, log in your Steam account, and then you can just play your games or whatever. However, there's also there's a secondary service for GeForce Now, which is the same as Stadia and other competition outlets, like I think it's Luna, the one that Amazon have got. Anyway, doesn't matter. So basically what they do, they also rent their servers to development teams so they can run their games during the pandemic, especially so they can run their games on a server. So like if you wanted to test the game and you're at home working from home, you can just stream the game directly to your PC, and it's very private. Like, it's just for the company, it's just for the people that are working on the game, and that's it. So you don't have to wait for builds, you don't have to download it, you don't have to upload it to your own computer and all that sort of stuff. It's very, very secure for them. However, there was a leak at GeForce Now where there was another developer that was able to access the list of all the games that were currently on that internal service all at once. And they made a list, and it was leaked out. And so we got a lot of games in a list that we don't know if we're ever going to see. We were like, like some of this stuff looks real, but other stuff looks fishy. Like, there's a lot of like crazy things in here, which I'm not quite sure would ever come to light. However, as the months sort of tick by, a lot of these games are getting verified, which is bizarre. Really, really strange that this sort of like this it's the biggest game leak ever sort of thing. And like, I don't know how, like, I'll only use the ones that have been sort of verified as an example, because I don't want to ruin it for people, especially if they're excited about E3 and stuff. Well, not E3.
I didn't think about that. There's no E3, so we're not going to ruin anything.
That's so sad. I feel so bad now.
We'll just do a disclaimer. If you don't want to know about the leak, then
skip ahead. Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get around to putting in the timestamps.
Sounds good. Yeah, so there was, to sort of give a grand overview, I guess, so there was leaks from Sony, Microsoft, Square Enix, Capcom, Take-Two, EA, Bandai Namco, and then a bunch of other smaller people. I say smaller, but there was obviously people like Sega, Atlas, WB Games, Valve, Paradox, and a few other more as well. So there's a lot of publishers that were affected by this, and like only.
And was there no Ubisoft?
There was no Ubisoft, because this is how I know probably that this is real. Is because Ubisoft don't use GeForce for that sort of thing. They use something completely different. Because like I know that anyway, it's sort of like I saw this list and I was like, the fact that there's no Ubisoft on this list tells me it's real. Yeah. And another thing has like come around in the recent months that sort of doubly confirms that, and that's mostly the Square Enix list, and that's the sort of thing that I want to focus on more than anything at the moment.
Okay.
So the Square Enix list, as it stands right now, at the time that like this list originally came out, it said that there was going to be a Chrono Cross remaster, Final Fantasy Tactics remaster, or Tactics Ogre. They weren't too sure. Final Fantasy 7 remake. A Final Fantasy 9 remake, Final Fantasy 16 coming to PC later, a Tomb Raider game, an unannounced Square Enix game, and Kingdom Hearts 4. That was the big one. because everyone was looking at Kingdom Hearts 4 like, really? That's a bit early. This is probably fake. However, on I think it was Thursday or Friday, Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced. So people have started looking through this, and now
going, damn, this looks legit now. Yeah. The more announcements that happen, the more it's like ticking it off. It's like correct.
Exactly.
So,
and this has slowly been chipping away. So Chrono Cross Remaster got announced after this list was leaked, and it has since come out. Like, it came out like a couple of weeks ago. That's out. The Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster. I didn't know if it was Tactics. I think it was just on the actual like raw list. I think it just says Tactics. That was it. That's all it said. So people are making assumptions about, is it Final Fantasy Tactics or is it Tactics Ogre? The Tactics Ogre trademark just got put up in Japan. So that's
looking more legit then.
That's looking real. The Final Fantasy 7 remake, we already knew that happened, because I think that was just like the PC port or whatever. That was already out. The Final Fantasy 9 remake, which is my second favorite video game of all time, and this makes me extremely nervous that this is even a thing, but here it is. That is in the list, so we'll see if there's a Final Fantasy 9 remake. Final Fantasy 16.
Is that your favorite one?
It's my favorite Final Fantasy, absolutely. But it's my second favorite game of all time after Eco. Like, yeah, it's up there.
Nice.
Yeah, and then Tomb Raider game unannounced. That
25th anniversary, edition, which kind of that sounds legit. Like they do something for the 25th, right?
Yeah, I mean that's already gone by. I don't think they actually ended up doing anything with that. So, but that sort of speaks to this list anyway, because there's a lot of stuff on this list which might just get cancelled. It's all internal. Like none of it's been announced. Canned. Yeah, happens all the time.
Yeah,
unannounced title by Square Enix could be like a Tomb Raider game on Unreal Engine announced. Just got announced last week.
Was it the go-karting thing?
I'm not sure.
No? Okay.
God knows. And then obviously after that was Kingdom Hearts 4. So that was the list of Square Enix. So there's all but 2 have been announced so far. Well, not announced, but like all but 2 have got evidence of existing. So that sort of explodes out to absolutely everything else. And there's a lot of games on this list which you're sort of looking at. You're looking at BioShock.
BioShock 2022, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that, which is heavily rumored to be working on. Mirror's Edge RTX Remaster. Yes, please. I would take one of those. I would absolutely play that game.
Yeah, Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, I would eat that up. That. So
XCOM 3.
XCOM 3.
Excited about that.
Yeah, Titanfall 3. There's a lot of games on here. So if you are interested, like I would say this is probably mostly accurate at this point. Like a lot of these seem real. The fact that Ubisoft isn't on this list, the fact that like all these games are starting to get announced. There's going to be a couple in here that we will absolutely not see the light of day. But that's just the nature of the games industry and how
that's how games work. So some will get canned, and it's just like, no, do something else. Or we need someone on something else. It's going to cost more money. Blah blah blah. Let's can this, consolidate. People move over there, and now it's not existing anymore. Yeah, Gears 6. Yeah. That could be interesting.
There's a lot of stuff, man.
There's Metal Gear remakes. Yeah, so 2 and 3 HD. So
yeah, I mean we've already got those on the PlayStation 3, so it'd be good to see if we get those onto the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5 or something. Maybe a PC version will come out. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. So if you are interested in this list, go and look through it. But if you're not and you want to be, I don't know, not sort of ruined by it, then by all means. Yeah, this would be the end of the section where we're going to talk about spoilers anymore. But yeah, I mean it's super fascinating.
Now.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see this sort of size of a leak come about, because
that's not from Ubisoft for starters.
Right. That's fair. That was a clean shot. I'll give you that. Yeah. So I mean, it's probably the worst sort of leak out of the games industry I've ever seen, I guess, and the fact that it's now getting verified.
Just the sheer volume of games. Yeah. It's interesting what sort of, can you imagine if you're in the games industry and that's the sort of like your mess to clean up? How do you clean that up? Do you go, we've got to have some sort of technical safeguarding put in place, or have we just got to fire the person that leaked it, or like, does an email go out to everyone's like, please don't share this list? Blah, blah, blah. It spoils it for everyone.
I mean, this is a mess up from no individual person, other than the leaker, obviously. But this is a mess up from GeForce, basically. Nvidia messed up big time. Like the fact that they didn't have a secure enough system so that people could also see, like other games that other developers are working on. And like if indie Joe Blow is working on a game And he's just like, oh, cool, look at all these games that are coming out. I'm just going to tell the world, sort of thing. And like, there's nothing stopping them from doing that because they haven't signed an NDA. That's the thing. Like, they're not signing an NDA with GeForce to say, hey, I can't leak anything that I see from other people's projects. Like, I can absolutely like sign an NDA with GeForce to say, okay, I'm not going to leak any of the technology that you guys have got or that we're using with you. But like, if you see another project that someone else is working on, like, do you have any legal right to not, like, to be able to be blocked from expressing that? It's like, probably not. Like, they were probably in their right completely to like
is it
say
not
this
in the
stuff
terms agreements to share non-authorized information?
I guess, but that would be a vague thing, and that would only be...
It'd be very vague, very difficult to...
it would be, but I think it would only be to the GeForce platform as well. So, like, they're not leaking anything from GeForce or Nvidia or anything like that. This is to do with other projects that Nvidia, like, that they're just using GeForce now. So it's kind of like if you... like, we're making a game for PlayStation 5 and PlayStation, like, you don't sign an NDA saying you're not allowed to leak any other games that are on our platform. Like, that's not in the NDA. It's very much like you just can't leak anything documentation wise for our actual platform. That's all. So it's very specific to the platform. It's not really, it's fascinating. Like, this thing is really weird, and it's such a strange sort of expose on the industry and how like crazy it all is, but nuts. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, because that sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this entertaining? Does it damage the games industry? Could it affect what does get canned or what doesn't? Is this going to affect how companies put stuff onto platforms? Like, what is this, or is this just something that happens? People talk about it. It's entertaining. We get to find out the games. Does it spoil the surprise? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing. Like, we're talking about it, and I'm having fun talking about it.
Sure.
I know it's not what the companies would want, because I understand on their point of view, confidence in keeping things held back is, because of money and shareholders and all this blah, 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 blah stuff, especially if they can it and then upset people. Because, if they can stuff and people get upset, then that's not good. Like, should I be guilty that we're talking about this? Like,
no, I mean,
how am I supposed to feel, Vin?
It's a very strange period that we're in at the moment, because the reason why NDAs used to be in place, and they still are to in most part, but it used to be a lot more important. Like, games didn't get leaked because the pool was a lot smaller. There was a lot less people playing games and all that sort of stuff. So it was really important that we keep tight lip on absolutely everything until it's the exact right time to announce these things. Because, like, you obviously want to maximize impact when you do announce something, or you do show a trailer at a gaming convention, and you show the game for the first time, and everyone's like, whoa, look at that, I'm going to go pre-order that right now, click, and then they get like money from that because they're generating revenue. It's really important that we keep that tight-lipped. Nowadays, I don't know if that's true that much anymore, because that has sort of been diluted, but it's also, we've got a lot more people in the pool now. So it's kind of like, should we be a little bit more open about when games are in production, like early on? I absolutely agree. We shouldn't be leaking anything like market material wise. Like, you shouldn't be showing screenshots, or you shouldn't be showing
like trailers and stuff.
Things like that. Yeah, absolutely. Like, those things should not be leaking out. Like, that's damaging, because people see a game in early production and they're looking at it and being like, oh, that's what it's going to be final. And it might even get worse. It might get better. And like, you're still skewing that original sort of, introduction to the game, which is dangerous. So I've seen stuff
that have looked that's been great, and then I've seen the final product and I've gone, they really
they had to pull it down.
They really pulled back those textures. That looks terrible.
Yeah. It's because they get it into the game and they're like, wow, this is running like garbage. It looks amazing, but it runs at 20 FPS. We need to like tighten this up and like maybe shrink the atlases down for the texture and stuff, and then like less draw calls, all this sort of like technical stuff. And then it's like, okay, now it's at 30, it's locked, done.
Yeah, when you're just looking at an asset in isolation, just with some like 3-point lighting, and you're just going, and as like an old 3D modeler, I'm just like drooling over it, going, this is delicious. Like, more please, nom nom nom.
Yeah.
And then you see the game, and it's just like, nah. And the game wasn't even that good. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah. So like,
I'm not going to name names though, but yeah, people might be able to guess.
Okay.
Well, some people know what I'm talking about if they listen to the podcast.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, like, but when it comes to these sort of lists, or like if a publisher came out and said, "Yep, we're working on a Metal Gear Solid remake" or something like that, if they just said that, people are like, "Wow, that's exciting! That's cool! I can't wait to see it."
Great, and people could talk about it, and get excited and nostalgia, and it might bump up the sales figures of like the old games, people getting ready. But that would be years, because it takes years to make a video game. That's years of too much hype, like when the marketing train hasn't got going on.
I mean, that's the counter argument to all of this, right? Is the whole like the hype cycle and the hype train and stuff, and people get off the hype train all the time. And like if you announce these things too early, then gamers are a bit too clued into this sometimes, where they're kind of like, well, you announced this game 2.5 years ago, where is it, sort of thing. And they get this sort of weird attitude about like when things should hit and how long a game should take, even though they're not in the industry. They have no clue. They have got no clue about production or how any of this works, but they've got this feeling about what should be happening. Right. Yeah. They've got this internal clock, right, of just like when stuff should be happening. And it's like if you're too late or too early or for whatever reason, then it's a problem. So it's very much, gamers are strange creatures in that respect. So I sort of see the reason why stuff is kept under NDA, but at the same time, like we probably can soften on that a little bit in some cases.
I think just announcing what you're working on, I think that could have more potential benefits as well, especially because higher up it's a leaky ship anyway, and people know what people are working on.
Right.
I think that there'll be no damage done for. Actually, if anything, I think it could be good for everyone involved if companies just say, hey, we're working on this game, we don't have a name yet, but it's like this, or working on a sequel, X, Y, and Z, because then there'll be transparency about what each individual studio is working on, and there'll be no toxic. Hopefully it'll put an end to more toxic videos of when like fanboys go, this company must be making this game because they're not doing this and they haven't done this, and then they come up with the wrong conclusion, and they get views off of a guess that's bad and ill-informed.
I think you're right. Like in terms of just transparency, it would be a good thing, and there is actual examples of this. Like we're looking at the Elder Scrolls 6, like the fact that was announced like 2 years ago, and like really that game's probably not going to be out for another 4 or something. That's just that's the blunt sort of truth to it. But Bethesda, like I don't know, like the whole Bethesda thing is weird anyway, because they absolutely probably came out to sort of try and boost up their sales so like they can get more money from the Microsoft acquisition. But the fact that Bethesda sort of came out in the first year of E3 and just said, this is everything that we're working on. It's not going to be out for a long time, but this is everything that we're working on. They were very transparent about that. And now like they don't have to worry about leaks or anything like that, because like, oh yeah, we heard this about the Elder Scrolls 6, and Bethesda are like, yeah, we're absolutely working on it. So what? Get over it, sort of thing. And that sort of like transparency, like it's actually a really good thing sometimes in this case. So like it wouldn't, this might be a wake up call to these companies to say, you know what, if the lists like this are just going to leak anyway, we might as well just put out like a logo and say, yeah, we're working on this. It's going to be a while before we show anything of it, but please be excited when it does come along, But it's kind of,
when we're ready for marketing, we'll let you know. When we're ready to market it, we'll let you know.
Yeah,
and it stops people drawing wrong conclusions about what they might be working on, or like people get into the hate spiral as well when they get in their heads that a company isn't making a sequel to a game, and they hate that, and it's like there's no reason for you to get upset. Firstly, but secondly, if that could be alleviated by the company going, yes, we definitely are, or yes, or no, we definitely aren't, then at least people can have that closure as well.
Yeah, saying that they're not working on something is just as important as they are working on something sometimes. Because like you're right, like in terms of like these hate spirals that people are in, and it's getting worse, and it will get worse. It'll just continue to grow as more and more people in the middle that just don't adhere to any of this are sort of quiet about this. But it's just like the more we can squash that out, the better, especially until the games industry is taken a little bit more seriously and more people look at us like we're an actual industry. Because that'll be nice one day. But like until then, we have to deal with the idiots on Twitter that are just like Team Sony and Team Xbox and like, oh, Nintendo's the best. And it's like, would you people just go away? Like seriously, like you don't like. There's no real reason why like you have to act like this. Like the games industry is huge and it's massive and it's growing. Like, and we need to be taken seriously. So if you can join the party, that'd be great. Until then, shut up, like sort of thing. So
that's a good segue to what I was actually watching on the weekend in terms of what we were coming to play.
Go for it.
I was watching Alon Pierce play the first like hour and a bit of Kirby, and she brought this up. She was like, people keep calling me, like, there's been blogs, there's been like podcasts, there's been articles about how she is a Sony pony and an Xbot, like both. Like there are podcast articles and interviews and stuff that claim that she's both of those things. Yep. And she goes, but no one knows that I'm actually totally like
Nintendo fangirl.
I'm into Nintendo fangirl, like because she just loves Kirby and she was just totally gushing over it. It was really interesting to watch that perspective, and the fact that she was like, yeah, no one cares that I'm a Nintendo fangirl and people think I'm a Sony pony and an Xbox, which is interesting. But yeah, I was watching Kirby. That's nuts. It's a nuts game, absolutely bananas. But the more I watch it, the more it just looked like it turns into Mario.
Yeah, that I had that fear. Like it kind of looked, because it gave me a lot of Mario Odyssey vibes, which is not a bad thing because that's an incredible game. Like it's one of my favorite Switch games, if not my favorite Switch game. So is that a good thing? I'm not sure.
It looked fun, and the characters looked interesting. The changing up the mechanics was really fresh and like really constant. So obviously the first hour is onboarding, but it's quicker onboarding than Mario Odyssey in terms of mechanics and stuff. So in the first hour of Mario Galaxy, you don't get as many things that you can do, but with Kirby, it's just like bam, 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 new thing, new thing, new thing.
Yeah.
I think that the gameplay loop is slightly a bit easier than Mario Galaxy because the camera is a bit more tailored to what's happening.
Yeah.
But it looked really interesting. And you swallow the car within like 15 minutes and there's like a little musical.
What do you do with that? Like, can you drive around as Kirby and stuff?
You can drive around and you can go over jumps.
All right.
And you can go fast.
All right. The more like more pressing matter, I guess. What about the vending machine? When you swallow a vending machine, what the hell do you do with that?
That means you can I think you can trample on things. Like you can jump and then smash down. And you can be a cone and you can like open up cracks in the ground.
Yeah, I'm super interested in this game. But...
And you get a Link hat in like the first 10 minutes as well. So
of course you do.
Walking around with a Link hat and a sword. It's just like, so is this just Zelda? And then I was like, wait, is this just Mario Galaxy?
It's just unapologetically Nintendo in every shape
and then that's it. I was like, no, it's the Nintendo formula, and they're just like showcasing their best work, and it's just like fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, the characters are all the same, but they're all different, and they're all cute, and they're all interesting and unique, and their animations are captivating, and they keep you watching and they keep you interested, and the sound effects are same but they're all different, and it's new, and it's the same but different, and that's what you want, isn't it?
Isn't that a Nintendo
same but
like
different.
in a nutshell? I mean that's one of my like sort of problems, I guess, with Nintendo in general, is like I wish they did more stuff like not in addition to like all this sort of stuff, because I love this stuff. Like I love like what Kirby's doing, I love what like Mario Odyssey did and all that sort of stuff. It's great, but in addition, like I wish like Nintendo would just open a couple of studios and just be like, all right, you guys work on new IP,
go off and do something. Come
up with some stuff.
What they could come up with that's on their own IP. I agree,
right,
but in terms of the actual aesthetics, it was just like the city level of Mario Galaxy Odyssey, except there was grass growing out of stuff.
Yeah, which is a good and bad thing.
So it was as odd as when you first find
what happened
like in Mario Galaxy.
What happened in Kirby for the world to end?
You get sucked into a portal, and then it's like the Lost Kingdom or something.
Yeah. But
the reasons to which you get sucked into this portal is unknown. And who cares?
Yeah, it's Kirby,
and that brings me on to Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
I finished that with my boy there you go. On the weekend.
Yeah.
The ending is so bizarre.
Right.
So odd, and a little bit sexist as well. And then
you
a
mean
little
the
bit
song
empowering.
Number, or?
Well, there was the song which came at the weirdest place, like not quite the end, but near the end.
Right.
And it's like
the Daemon.
Well, this is weird.
The climax of the movie. Yeah.
The climax. Yeah, the climax at the end of the game where the song comes in. It's just like, but what? Who was playtesting it? Do you know what? Like, we're ramping up the intensity. It's getting towards the end of the game. Let's just have like a catchy pop song like halfway through the climax of the game.
Sure, why not?
Yeah,
right?
That sounds great.
Yeah,
I'll work
cool,
on that pop song. And then like Bowser getting upset that Peach didn't want to marry him, and then Mario comforting Bowser. I was like, what?
Yeah,
that wouldn't fly in a Western studio.
No,
and
I find this fascinating more than anything. Is like the whole conversation around sexism in the games industry, and how it's like sort of we've sort of honed in as an industry on like people like Sony and like Microsoft, and we ignore Nintendo in a lot of these conversations because it's just cute Nintendo. They're just doing that, even though they're working on kids game that influences these ideas more than anyone else. Like kids aren't playing God of War; they're playing like the new Kirby game or the new Mario Odyssey or whatever. That's the games they're playing and solidifying these ideas.
Cortana. Yeah, they don't care about Cortana. Who cares?
Really strange.
But Harrison was watching Bowser get upset that Mario rescued Princess Peach, and then he cried because Peach rejected both of them.
Yep.
And that was just like,
it's very strange.
Just so confused. And I was glued to the screen. Harrison was not really that bothered. He was kind of like interested, kind of not. He was happy that we completed the game. The cutscenes weren't really his thing. But I was paying attention, and I was like,
it's dangerous. Yeah, it's weird, right?
Know.
Like the whole... Like, and you look through all of the games, the fact that, you know, Zelda is constantly getting saved by Link and stuff like this. Save the princess. She's helpless and the damsel in distress. Like these ideas that we're constantly like perpetuating out. It's sort of like I don't adhere to much of that anyway. Like I'm not suggesting that like we should do one or the other, but the conversation around those is very, very like the juxtaposition of them, of us like constantly being very hyper aware of AAA games and how considerate we need to be for all these different people and all these different movements and things like this. And I absolutely agree with that. But the fact that Nintendo sort of gets to stay out of that conversation because they're just cute, fluffy Nintendo is very bizarre.
Get out jail free card.
It's very strange.
It got through the PEGI rating in the UK, so suitable for like all audiences. I didn't check. Like if it says mild sexism or like chauvinistic, like chauvinistic Bowser or anything like that.
Yeah,
or,
I personally don't like mind that much that, you know, we have like damsel in distress like storylines and all that sort of stuff because there's absolutely like both sides to that as well. Like we've got other characters like Samus that sort of, you know, balance that out in Metroid and stuff.
Empowering,
very
character.
empowering.
Sure.
Yeah. So like I don't adhere to it too much, but the outrage machine that is online and stuff, and a lot of it is obviously what's the word I'm looking for? Like justified, right? So like they're allowed, like these are good conversations to have, especially with people like yourself who have got kids that are playing this sort of stuff, and you don't want to plant these seeds into their head of like, yeah, you need to save the woman and she'll marry you sort of thing.
Yeah,
like that,
or reject you and then go on holiday,
right?
And then you feel butthurt, and it's just like, what sort of lesson? What's the lesson here? Like, are you supposed to save the princess and then not get upset if she rejects you? Like, shouldn't feel like obliged that anything should happen after that anyway. But isn't Peach your girlfriend? Yeah, going like, wasn't she
like
supposed to be your girlfriend?
Most Mario games, if you think about it, like, oh, we should like not put sexism in our games, and then like you play most Mario games, and it's literally Bowser kidnapping the princess because he wants to marry her. And it's like, that is dark, man. If you think about it, it's hilarious.
Yeah, so dark. And he employs people to like defend his kidnap and conquest.
And then at the end of the day, like he gets into no real trouble for it. He just like, it's just him and Mario are high-fiving by the end of the game, like in every game as well, sort of thing. Like, it's great.
It's like, don't kidnap
people. It's not great.
Wrong. High five.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's sort of like this, the conversation is very interesting.
They get away with it. I don't understand how. Maybe it's just again, like I could never think of that. That thought could never come into my mind. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm Western. Sure. I don't know. Maybe it's like an Eastern.
Yeah, a lot.
Thing,
I mean, a lot of this
is cool.
Yeah, a lot of this is to do with the fact that Japan is kind of conservative and I'd say about 30 years behind the West. Not like in technology or like that. Like they have a very good way of life and all that sort of stuff. It's a first world country, obviously. But in terms of like how they view women in the world and things like this, they're very far behind in that respect. Like there's still like the housewife culture is very big in Japan, which is not necessarily a bad thing, like or a good thing either. It's like all subjects. It's a very gray area. Like a lot of Japanese women probably like being housewives. Like I don't know, but there's a lot of them that don't. So like the conversation absolutely needs to be had. But then a lot of these ideas and thoughts sort of like filter into their products, which we get through the form of like Nintendo and Studio Ghibli movies and stuff like this. And it's like, okay, why is that? And then Westerners are looking at this like, okay, why is that person like a housewife, and why is she wearing an apron as a housewife? Does she have a uniform as a housewife? And like we have these questions which don't really make sense to us as Westerners, but to the Japanese it's very, very normal and commonplace. But Like, where is the line there? And like, how should we import that? It's a very, very gray area, which I don't have an opinion on either way. It's just, yeah, it's a very strange, bizarre conversation, especially when it comes to video games more than anything. It's just,
and especially with Princess Peach, like back in the day when she was conceived as an idea, it was just pixels on a screen, and it's just like, what's the base character that I can have? Like, an interesting female thing to want to have is a princess, but like, no one sat down and hours worked out. It's like, so is Mario married to Peach? Therefore, is he king? And like, why isn't she queen? Like, why is she ruling over the kingdom? Like, then that whole like stuff comes into it.
What are the geopolitics in the Mario games?
Yeah, in the Mario universe, right. Especially because it's like interdimensional as well. So where does the hierarchy start and end? Does it like end at the dimensions? Does it end at the world?
Yeah, this is where it gets like, it's sort of, which cancels itself out almost, like, because we can talk about sexism in Mario games, but then at the same time Bowser is walking around as this big half turtle, half like dinosaur thing. Like, we don't have those in real life. Should we really be like taking his lessons and applying it to reality? So there's a lot of like that's where the gray area is, right? But it is strange that they do just get the free pass writ large on a lot of this stuff. They get a lot of free passes everywhere. That's a lot of my problem with the games industry, journalism wise as well, is how many free passes they get.
I was surprised about. I've not heard about the ending. Like that, to me it's controversial and it's worth talking about.
Yeah, of course.
But all I've heard of Mario Odyssey is just praise, and I was totally on board with all the praise up until that last little bit, and I was just like, something weird's going on. I don't understand. I don't know if I like it, but it wasn't a satisfying ending.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that, and. Yeah, Nintendo get a lot of free passes, like microtransactions. They get free passes on that. They get free passes on DLC. Like, their online services are very, very subpar that they need updating, but people pay hand over fist for them. There's a lot of weird, like the conversation around sexism, the conversation around workplace ethics, like, is a huge thing which Nintendo get away with, and what people don't talk about a lot, because there's a lot of stuff going on in Japan which are way, way worse than stuff that's happening at Activision, Blizzard, and Ubisoft. Way worse, and like, nobody talks about it. And
no one cares if you're a Nintendo fanboy or fangirl. Like,
exactly,
no one cares. There's no, like, people don't care. But people really care if you're Sony or Xbox, which doesn't make any sense. It's like,
very strange indeed.
If you're going to be upset about one or the other, be upset about all of them.
Sure. Yeah, it shouldn't. I mean, it comes back to that age-old argument which I have, which is like, I don't mind people having opinions, just be consistent. Like, that's literally all I ask, is if you are consistent in your opinions across the board on all of this sort of stuff in the games industry. If you've got a wacky opinion about PlayStation and you're a huge Xbox fan, if Xbox turn around and do that, you need to be consistent about that. Otherwise, you're just a hypocrite, and you're basically just shilling out for companies at that point, in which, like, you've got to question your position in the industry at that point and be like, okay, what am I actually trying to achieve with this? Why am I shilling out for this thing when I don't really gain anything either way? And all, like, it's endless, man. Just be consistent, people. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what have you been playing? You've been playing Elden Ring.
I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring. Too much Elden Ring.
I saw you get pwned when you were trying to sneak around the
outside.
That
guy can get a job. Oh, I was not happy about that. And I was on the way to get...
Stop being like a monster. Like, get a job.
Right. It's like the old insult I come back to all the time. But yeah, I was like, just that video actually gives like a good context to like sort of my experience with this game. But like, I died, as you do, in Elden Ring. And I was on the way back to go and retrieve my souls, and I had like 60,000 of them, which is like a level's worth at that time. And I was like, all right, cool, I need to go back and get that. So I'm going to sneak past this guy and get him. So there was like this, it's basically this room, which is a circular room, which the guy was walking through. And I was like, okay, if I go on the outside of the wall of the room, which is like on the cliff and edge, like I was shuffling around the side of the building, and he was walking through the room, but he clocked me just before like I was going around the edge. So I am on the outside of the building, he's on the inside of the building, and he swings his sword through the wall, and it clips me and hits me and then knocks me off the building, and I died, and I lost all my souls. And I was just there like, this game is broken. This game is screwed. Like, it's and it's those sort of things where the game feels like a game from 10 years ago. Not in a good way.
Hitboxes, like
Hitboxes are awful in this game.
we've got the technology. We know how to make sure swords don't go through
Walls.
certain hitboxes.
Yeah. And that happens all the time. Like whenever I'm fighting a boss, like if they've got like a thrust move with their sword, like the amount of times that I've seen swords come through pillars and just clock me right in the chops. I'm just like, yeah, great, awesome, thanks, appreciate that. Yep, sweet. If only that wall worked, that would have been great. You know.
Yeah.
It's because I can't roll through them, but you can stab through them. That's fair. That's cool. You know. So
Yeah.
it
breaks that
infuriates me.
immersion, doesn't it? It breaks that.
Yeah.
It breaks that. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, and and I've seen like dragons come flying through the sky and like fly through buildings and things and like take you out, but everything else is pristine, and it's just like, okay,
yeah,
fine, dragon.
Yeah, but saying that, like outside, obviously there is stuff like that. This is the part that's weird about it, I guess, which is the game.
But it's still fun.
Yeah, the game, like I've put 100 hours into it, right? So like it has to be fun.
Yeah.
It's a great game. Don't get me wrong. It is an absolutely fantastic game, but it does have its flaws, which isn't mentioned enough. In that, the game doesn't look graphically as impressive as something like Bloodborne because it is an open world. And for a PlayStation 5 game, it runs like absolute garbage. Like I think it averages at like 40 FPS when it's an unlocked frame rate for 60. So it just constantly goes back and forth. Technically, the game is all over the place in that respect. The hitboxes, as I mentioned, really, really bad. Okay. Some of the design choices that they've made in this game are just like super archaic, and there's no real reason why they need to be there other than the fact that that's just the Souls formula.
They've been written by, yeah.
But saying that, outside of all of that, there is something about the game that locks you in, and you're just like, all right, I absolutely can't stop playing it now, which is, there's something to be said for that, and that's where the praise sort of kicks in for it, and it's, the world,
despite its flaws, it's still endearing and still,
the world is really intriguing. It's diverse. It's massive. Like the enemies are super interesting, like to fight. But outside of the technical issues of like the camera issues and stuff, which I mentioned last week as well. All of that sort of like the technical side though, there's the actual world itself just draws you in. And I think they've figured out the loop of souls within an open world, which really works in the respect that, you aren't just like retracing your steps over and over again. You're constantly moving forward, which that sounds like a vague sort of subject, but like if you've ever played something like Bloodborne, if you die, then you have to retrace your steps. You're bottlenecked, and you have to like pretty much do exactly what you've just done just to get back to the place that you've just been. A lot of that is cut out in Elden Ring for the better, like way better, because where they put the points of grace or like the fire spots, like the checkpoints basically, where they put those, they're a lot smarter about where they put those, like closer to places where you're more likely to die, things like this. So like it's a lot less busy work, and it's a lot less like retracing your steps, and it's like that streamline, like that affects the flow of everything more than anything else in the game. Like, and not just the open worldness. Like a lot of people are talking about like, it's great because of the open world. A lot of the reason why this game is great is not because it's that vastly different to any of the Souls games. It's just they've streamlined a lot of things which help it immensely. Like the flow of staying in the game is alleviated a lot because you're not constantly retracing your steps. You're in the moment. Like if you die at a boss, like the point of grace is just before it, or the statue of Medica or whatever the hell they're called, like the checkpoint is just before it. It's like, all right, cool, you got me that time. I'm going to go straight back in there and fight him again, and I'm going to figure it out this time. So that retry loop is just, it's really snappy. They're still not, I've heard criticism to say that they're still not better. Like there was the escapist review was like, had to bonk 3 people on the head with like a rolled up newspaper before he could then get to the boss who he stabbed, and then his boss was the boss that like came and smashed him to oblivion, but he still had to bonk the 3 people on the head with the newspaper, and they found that like frustrating. So that still exists. So there's still Soulsian, there's still like Soulsian like mindsets behind some of these things, and there's definitely some areas in the game which absolutely reverts back to that Souls mentality of like retracing your steps. Like in some areas there's just no point of grace or statues of Medica, so you can't like respawn anywhere sort of thing, and there's just that like, and you get into that pattern, and when you do hit those places, where you are retracing your steps, or you are fighting a boss where you have to go through like a couple of phases first. Things like this, like that old Soulsian stuff. It's just like, yeah, I like, now I fully understand why people hate Souls games and why people are liking this game.
And the criticisms were justified, and they've kind of addressed them, not in any way that most people would think of doing, which is like add a easy mode, or like add something.
And to sort of speak to that more than anything, like, it is balancing. You're right, and it's very much down to the fact that people, like, this game is not easier in any way. Like, they've actually made the bosses harder, and because they've made the bosses harder, they can make it easier on the other end by, like, okay, we'll just put the point of grace closer to the boss, but we'll make the boss harder. So it's as difficult. Yeah. So it's easier in some ways, but harder in others. Like, the open world is way easier. And you give people the option to, grind elsewhere and then come back, which you never had in before. So in that respect, it's unique. Those criticisms and the reasons that you like that game is similar to why I'm liking Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah. For similar reasons. Like, but it's not difficulty, which I find annoying with Horizon. It's the constant talking. It's the what you got to. I mean, I'm like, a dragon's come around the corner, or like a big dinosaur, and I've got to like go, what traps have I got? And I'm just clicking left and left and left, and I'm like searching through what traps aren't available and which traps are available. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, I need a health potion. Click, click, click. Oh, a small health potion. I don't have any. Why is it on my freaking menu system? Like, it's taken me out of that. So then if I get bored of that, I can just go and do something else. I can just go to a cauldron and then just have a different experience where I'm complaining about her giving me too many prompts. I did find a cauldron which she told me things when I wanted to hear them, which was nice. That there's at least one. Yeah. But yeah, that's similar to like why I'm liking this open world game, but for like similar reasons but different. Like, the things I find frustrating, I can go and do something else and then come back. Or like, I want to collect some armor, I want to go and do some like I've got unlocked this underwater bit. I was going to come back here when I did have the aqualung or whatever. Now I've got it. Now I can do that because I'm bored of cycling through endless menus that don't exist to try and blow up this dinosaur. Or like, one dinosaur killed me like 4 or 5 times, and I was like, I just need to come back. And and I had that option to do that. There's a lot of that in Souls as well, in Elden Ring as well, where you're just you get into this cycle of like, all right, this thing is rinsing me. I cannot even get quarter of its health down. Like, I'm going to come back in an hour, and you forget about it because you're like, that's the beauty of the thing. There's so
much more shiny new things.
Yeah, it's like,
I think they're more alike than people think.
Yeah, a good example of it was I went to go and speak to this witch called Rani, and I was just like, all right, cool. Like, she's like, oh yeah, just go down and meet this guy in this lower level of the world, and he'll give you the mission there. And I went down there, and it was like, all right, cool. And it went underground, and like a quarter of the map opened up, but underground. And I was like, where the hell did all this come from? And then I got to the end of that bit and the underground bit, and then it teleported me to another underground bit. It's somewhere else in the world, which opened up even more. And it got to the end of that, and then I got to a third one. And I ended up staying in the underground bit, quote unquote, for like 9 hours. I was like, this is ridiculous. And then by the time I come out of it, I gained like 20 levels or something. Came out of it, and I'm just like, got all this new armor and stuff. Like, all right, cool. I'm going to go and fight that guy now that I tried to leave for half an hour. I'd like you take him out in a couple of hits.
9 hours later, you come back.
Yeah. And it's just like, Jesus, like, you've been training, and it's really funny. But
gains. Remember me?
Yeah, I'm back, bitch. And it's just like, there's a load of messages left on the floor by like players all the time. And a lot of them just say revenge, sort of thing, because they've come back or whatever.
Yeah.
Really funny. But yeah, I mean, fantastic game. Everyone should check it out at least. Do I think it's a 97? Nope. I think it's about a 90, I would say. Like, it's absolutely like a 9 out of 10 game. It's not a 97. Technical issues, archaic sort of game mechanics needs fixing. Not fixing, but it needs sort of addressing. And people should be a bit more open about that, because if we're holding games like Cyberpunk accountable because of their mechanics and their technical issues, then we should absolutely do that for Elden Ring. It's unfortunate we sort of gave it a free pass.
It's like we said, it's got to be consistent.
Yeah,
exactly. Horizon, I'm liking it for what it does. What I liked about the first game, well,
sweet.
The story's got me enough that I'm invested, and there are some bits that are pleasing, and that's enough. And I wasn't expecting, a better game than the first one. And in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. but it's enough for me to go, yeah, this is a good game. And I think it's like 8. I think it's like 7, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I do want to get back to it. I mean, it's I sort of, after I got the water snorkel thing and after the Nevada mission, the LA mission or whatever it is, the Vegas, sorry. After I did the Vegas mission.
Have you been to San Francisco yet?
I just got there, I think. So I finished that mission.
It's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's so gorgeous. That's just like...
It's annoying how beautiful that game is because I want to play it.
People keep saying, it's great. And what was the escapist thing? He goes, yeah, people keep saying that Horizon is a really good, really pretty game, and people keep saying that Elden Ring was a really pretty game. And his response to that is, maybe don't play a subpar game, just press your fingers against your eyes because there's some pretty colors that you can get for free. And I thought that was hilarious. Yeah. I was like, it's a good point. But people are invested in pushing the boundaries of what video games could look like, and they always have and they always will. Like, I remember talking about like Lara Croft's pointy boobs because they could get points on her boobs instead of a flat square boob.
Yeah.
And then like when her ponytail would move and then people just lost their minds. People always will. Like the game was better as the games went on. But that's because technology and visuals is just part of that, isn't it? Just part and parcel of video games, I think.
No, yeah, I mean, we can't, like, I always dislike those people that are sort of disingenuous about it. Like, oh, gameplay is king and all that sort of stuff. They say stuff like this. And it's like, yeah, that's all good and well. But at the end of the day, what really sells a game is how it looks a lot of the time. And
you don't play them like black and white blobs.
Yeah, we're not playing text adventures, people. There's a good reason for that. There's a reason why we don't play those games anymore. It's because they're bad to look at. Like just looking at blank text sort of thing is not fun. And is Elden Ring better than Demon Souls? Like, yes. Why? Because Elden Ring probably looks better, and that's why it's selling a lot better. Is because it looks cooler and stuff. Obviously, not the only reason. I'm not going to be that ignorant about it, but like people that ignore that and say, no, the only thing that's important is gameplay and story and stuff. Like the last thing we should look at is graphics and things like that. I think it's sort of a cop out. I think people are being disingenuous when they say stuff like that. And games like Horizon Forbidden West is an absolute example of like how amazing a game can look. And it still has problems with its gameplay, and that's why it sort of gets elevated out. The facial animation in Forbidden West is just unprecedented. Like it's literally the top of its game. I don't think I've seen anything like it. There's some characters that you talk to, and they just look real. Like the uncanny valley is sort of getting
they really pop
blurred
off the screen.
Yeah, and you just like the way like their twitches or like how they look around and stuff. The capture animation, it's just incredible. Like the work that them guys are doing over there, guys and girls, are just it's amazing. Like I just can't fathom how they're achieving that sort of thing. And then we look at games like Elden Ring, which the art direction is fantastic and it's beautiful to look at, like all that sort of stuff, but graphically it's not on the same level as something like Forbidden West. It's just not. Like we have to be sort of blunt about that. And it's sort of nuts. But
people spend money on things for the senses. So sound, sight, taste, smell. People spend money on these things.
Yeah, trailers and screenshots sell these things. So like the better they make it look, the better it'll sell.
Yeah, a lot of my gameplay is based on how many interesting swirly images can I distract people from not thinking this is a really well designed level.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fully aware of that. Like it's kind of like that in my game as well. Like the people
when you put your grass in, people lost their minds.
I put grass in, and then there was the zombie animation that was like climbing at the fence with the fence moving. That was it. That's all it's like. Like nobody actually knows what the gameplay is. No one really cares. They just looked at that and like, that looks nice. Click, and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. No, and enjoying that. So
their enjoyment is as legitimate as if it was displaying great gameplay.
Right.
Like you can't say one's better than the other.
No.
They're both important. And people like them in different amounts, and that's both are legit. Who's more likely to buy a game? Someone that likes the look of a pretty game? Yeah, because you can market that easier than a gameplay game. Yeah. Like the game that's got really strong gameplay. There's plenty of games that have got strong gameplay elements that just look a bit garbage, and no one cares.
Yeah. Like only a certain amount of people care, instead of like, I mean, you look at things like Elden Ring and it sold 12 to 13 million copies in less than a month. It's sort of like, you understand why, because people are talking about it. It looks great, like art direction wise and stuff. But then, like there's definitely other great games out there that don't look as impressively great. I mean, like I always think back to things like Thomas Was Alone. an amazing, incredible game, but it's just a bunch of squares. And if you don't play the game, then you don't get that. If you just look at that game as
if you look
screenshots,
at the trailer, it
looks boring as hell. Like, what's with the squares? You see a trailer, it might sell it a little bit better with the voiceovers and stuff and like the effects, and you get the vibe from it. But like if you saw a screenshot of Thomas Was Alone, it's very hard to sell from a screenshot. But on something like Horizon Forbidden West, nobody has to know what the gameplay is whatsoever. That could be I don't know, like an interactive novel for all you care. You just look at it like, that looks amazing. And it's just that selling power is really important for these sorts of things. I don't know how we got into this conversation, but there it is. Who knows?
Took some turns.
What
thumbnail's going to be.
So you're, I know, right? You're enjoying the game?
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yep.
Good.
I mean, there's things that are frustrating, and I'm aware of what they are. So I can limit that annoyance by just changing it up and keeping it fresh. The fact that it's so diverse, and you can focus on one thing at a time and just go with what you fancy is actually, I'm really enjoying that. Especially because I've got to eke out this video game because I've got no money.
That's fair.
So it's going to have to keep me sustained.
Right.
And I'm just glad that it's an open world game that I can, and once I've completed the game, then I can go back and do all of the whatever the game is, the game with the puzzle pieces and the strike or whatever they call it, the board game that they have in the game, little mini game.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
with the
machines
West,
on
a board. Yeah, in Forbidden West. Yeah, so I can do that for a bit.
Yeah, it can't. It's fine. Like everything stemmed from a Gwent in The Witcher 3, and I don't think they'll ever top that.
That was a great game. I love Gwent.
I probably like that game more than the actual game. But yeah, it's just such an incredible minigame. We need more minigames in games. Like that's a thing. Like we should just do that. Like more minigames, please.
Full of minigames.
Game of minigames. There you go. Minigame, mate. Okay. Minigame game. Minigame game. That's hard to say.
Maybe that's why Sock Pop, that those, I told you about it before. It's like the people in, I can't remember what country it is. They make a game like every 2 weeks, and it's just a prototype.
Oh,
so it's like
you were telling me about
this.
Yeah,
that comes out twice a month sort of thing. And they just release a new tiny little thing, and people keeps people sustained.
That's great.
On Patreon.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tapping into that kind of thing where people really love little mini experiences that are different and unique.
Yeah, and it's you always stumble on new things in those as well. Like whenever you see a game jam, there's always a new mechanic in there that's like no one's thought of that yet. That looks incredible. So there is something
how
to be
far
said
they
to
can go. Sometimes their best form is minimalistic.
Yeah.
So like you can't extract and improve and add on to the experience can be complete in 2 hours. Like you'll get the most out of it in 2 hours.
Right.
And then it goes to 4 or 5, 7 hours. You're just like, this is terrible. Like,
because most games are just like that, right? You're just trying to find that sort of 30 seconds of fun, and then you have to find a repeatable format for that to extend it out. And it's just like after, like sometimes games are just like, maybe you should only repeat this out for an hour and then it's done. Like you shouldn't be pushing it past that. So it's cool that people are embracing that at least, because you can do a lot more interesting things within that half an hour space, that bite-sized sort of game, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably wrap this thing up. It's been an hour and 20 minutes. So everyone, thank you very much for joining us and listening to our latest episode. You might see that.
I hope you're liking the. Oops, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Go.
I was going to say, I hope you're liking the new camera. I got my
I was about to say, I hope the quality's coming through, because we are going to try and make a concerted effort on trying to lift up the quality of the episodes, I guess, like audio wise and video wise. Like I'm probably going to invest in a new camera soon, just so I can match Chris's nice, pristine, nice new look. Look at him go with his SLR. Hopefully I can find one that, doesn't look like a bag of noise. But yeah, we'll get there. Hopefully the audio version, if you are an audio listener, sounds a lot better. I think it's going to improve a lot. But yeah, we'll try and make more effort for the podcast anyway, because we're heading towards 400 subscribers on YouTube now. By the end of this sort of year, I don't know how far we're going to get, so we better
800.
Chris just saying stuff now. 800.
Yeah,
that's a sentence. We'll see. Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, right?
By Christmas, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, either way, thank you very much for listening. And if you are interested, then please check us out on YouTube. We are Polygon Forest there. You can also find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all those services. We're on Anchor as well. So if you just search for us, Polygon Forest, you can find us there. Please like, subscribe, and comment, all that good stuff. Rate us if you are on the other platforms, so we sort of get a little boost from the algorithm. But yeah, and also hit the bell icon on YouTube so you can be notified when we do have a new episode, which is usually every Sunday or Monday, depending on when we edit the video and put it out. But Chris, where can people find you, good sir? All over the place now.
All over the place. This is going to take a bit longer than it usually does.
Indeed.
So yeah, I'm at Acrylic Pixel on Twitter. I'm Acrylic Pixel on YouTube, and I'm on Steam. So you can search for Focus Find or Acrylic Pixel on Steam, and Patreon page is Acrylic Pixel. So yeah, you can search for that and find me there.
Very cool.
And what about you, Vin? Where can we find your stuff?
Yep, you can find me on Twitter. That's the best place. At Hillfort Games. Me and my little indie game is hanging out there. You can check it out there. If you're not into indie games, that's fine. I also do concept art as well for the video games industry. So you can find some of that on there, as well as ArtStation. You can find my ArtStation, which is just concept art, which is Vin Hill Art. You can find all of that sort of stuff there. Like I've put up over the last few months some stuff from Rainbow Six Extraction. Might have some other stuff at some other point. We shall see. But yeah, that's all there.
Oh.
I mean, I'm obviously working on something. Like, I'm not just like.
When can you tell us that? Or is that you're not even allowed to tell us when you can tell us?
Oh, in about 3 years. I've no idea. I honestly haven't got a clue. Like, the game that I'm working on now is very far out. Like, I'm probably not going to be able to talk about it until yonder sort of thing. I'm sure. Like, I might. Okay. Yeah, it's a while basically. It's going to be a long time before I post anything professionally. It's just going to be like personal stuff from the time being. Yeah. Oh, that's fine. Got a lot of stuff coming. Cool.
Yeah, you got some cool personal stuff coming. So yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So until next time, thank you very much, guys, and we will catch you in the next one. Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So I'm hitting record. So okay. 3, 2, 1. Your timing's awful, but it's okay. Yeah, you'll be able to.
That's exactly the same on my end.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, mine's got a little bit of delay, I guess, but yeah, that's